All right. What's up, church? How you guys doing today? Well, I'm Brian, one of the pastors around here. If I haven't met you, come see me after. I'll be hanging out the front. But I'm our Church Where You Are pastor, so we have an online campus where people gather from all over the country. Most recently, we had a lady in Texas find us. She downloaded the prayer app and found our app, downloaded it, created an account, started engaging with our community, invited her sister in New Mexico. Her sister invites friends. People that have been displaced from church that are finding a place to temporarily land, to be ministered to be noticed. That's what our job at Church Where You Are is. So I get some of our hosts are from Edgerton campus, where they show up to serve, and they serve people that show up online that are looking for direction, that are looking for community. So that's where my background is, and I'm just so glad to be with you guys. It's only the second time I've got to preach live here in Edgerton, so pray with me. And while we're at it, let's pray for Pastor Nate today. He's at the Browns game. Let's just pray for the Browns. They probably need a lot more. No, Pastor Nate's with ministering as he always does. He can watch football and minister to a buddy. So he's with a very dear friend today, just being Pastor Nate. But just so grateful to be with you today. And we're going to be continuing on in our series, One Hit Wonders. Have you guys been enjoying this series? Probably didn't walk into church if you're brand new expecting to, Tainted Love. That's something like 45 years ago? Wow, okay, here we go. But yeah, another powerful one-hit wonder, a one-chapter book in the Bible, the book of Obadiah. So we're going to go back into the Minor Prophets. It's the shortest book in the Old Testament, actually, and that's where we're going to be learning today on how to treat people. How are we to treat people? So I'm going to start with a question, and that's, have you ever been kicked when you're down? Have you ever been kicked when you're down? Maybe this morning you were kicked when you were down. Maybe it's just been a week from heck. Maybe it's been just a month, a year of feeling like you're being kicked when you're down. Possibly. I don't know. We'll see how the Lord works on your hearts. Maybe you're going to feel a little convicted after our message today. Like, I've actually been the one administering the kicking, now that I think about it. I just want you to know, regardless of what camp that you're in right now, there's grace and there's mercy. His mercy is new every day. There's forgiveness. There's a fresh start. There's a place of restoration, of feeling redeemed, to walk forward out of here with freedom. So I'm going to start with a story that we're going to go back, and we're going to actually travel into Texas. And I tried this the first time, and it didn't work. I don't have a Texas draw. It might come out a little bit today. Is anyone from Texas in here? Does anyone have a relative from Texas that comes to visit? Okay, yeah, so it's probably going to be bad, okay? But we're going to read along anyways. So this story is going to set up our endeavor into the book of Obadiah. Are we ready? All right. So, a big city California lawyer, he goes duck hunting, okay? You can probably picture what he might look like. Big city, puffed up lawyer. He's going to go duck hunting in Texas. Rural Texas, and he shoots a prized bird. Now, this is the bird that he wanted to go after. He's going to take it back. He's going to have it stuffed. It's going to be in his office, mocking all his buddies, saying, "Look what I got." Well, the lawyer realizes that there's a little bit of an obstruction to him getting the duck, and that's a fence line that he can easily hop. So he starts to hop over that fence to retrieve the duck, and out of the distance, you hear a tractor coming. And a farmer, an old farmer with overalls. You can imagine what he looks like, right? And he quickly pulls up to the scene, assesses the scene, and addresses the lawyer and says, "Son, what do you think you're doing here?" And the lawyer says, "Well, I've just shot this prize bird, and I'm taking that back to California, and I'm going to stuff that bird, and I'm just going to grab that bird right now." And the farmer interrupts him. "No, you're not going to do that. That's my property. That bird's on my property. You will not." And the lawyer looks at him and says, "Okay, so I'm a trial lawyer, and if there is a way for me to sue you, I promise you I can find a way, okay? And I'll sue you. I'm getting that duck." He says, "No, you're not." And, well, the farmer says, "All right, son, here's the deal. Apparently, you California boys, you don't know how we settle things here in Texas. Here in Texas. Is that better? And there's a little thing we call the Texas three-kick rule. We administer this to handle little disagreements, such as we have today. And so the lawyer says, well, what's the Texas three-kick rule? I'm all ears. And so the farmer says, well, here's the deal. I'm going to kick you 3 times. And then you'll get a chance to kick me 3 times. And we're going to go back and forth until one of us quits. Deal? Lawyer sizes him up. I can take this old coot, he says. And so the farmer makes his approach with those nice big Texas boots and puts it right on the man's shin. Drops him to his knees. Then a quick to the nose. Puts him on his belly. And then finally, kidney, bam, he's out for the count, right? Well, the adrenaline starts to take over the lawyer. He gets the will to get up. He is going to take this old man down now. Now it's my turn. He makes his way up to his feet. And the farmer just smiles at him nonchalantly. Nah, I give up. You can have the duck. And walks off. Smart man. The Texas three-kick rule. Kick them while they're down. It's cunning. Cunning. All right, so I love this little image I found, and it's cheers to being kicked while you're down. Said no one ever. Nobody likes to be kicked when they're down. So I'm going to ask you again, setting the table for today. Have you ever been kicked when you were down? It's a feeling that's hard to forget, and no one wants to be treated that way. So we're going to continue in our series, again, like I mentioned, in the book of Obadiah. It's a one-hit wonder. It's a one-chapter book. It's short. It's a short prophecy, and it's going to highlight the main track in the Devil's Greatest Hits album. So if you were to picture the Devil's Greatest Hits album, what do you think would be the debut lead song on that LP? What would it be titled? Now, maybe there's different words that come into your mind. It's a single word. It's pride. Let's say pride on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Pride. Pride is the main album, the main track. It's been on repeat. It really has. Since the dawn of man's fall from grace, pride has been putting us in situations where we exalt ourselves above everyone else, make decisions on our behalf. It leads to dangerous, destructive outcomes. So, but sometimes, in our pride, we convince ourselves that people deserve it. Whatever's happening, they deserve it. For example, we've got this thing called snow coming around. I'm sorry, Christmas is coming. There you go. Now, snow's coming too. And I don't know about you, but I hate driving in snow. Anybody else? You should go to snow. Snow shouldn't come to you. But remember, it's icy, it's snowy. It's probably going to be January when we start experiencing this, maybe November. But when you're driving to work and you're in your routine, you're on autopilot, you're driving your 9 and 3, which is what they say now, right? Not 10 and 2. 9 and 3. And then somebody just speeds by you. Sometimes it's a semi, and you're just lay on your horn. You're like, really? All the snow dust is up in your windshield. You can barely see, and you're freaking out. And you're, And then 2 miles later, you pass them. Oh, look who ended up in the ditch. Oh, nice little pillowy little ditch you ended up. Look, you look safe, We can justify things in our pride. Oh, I'm not going to stop and see if they're okay. I mean, I honked my horn pretty hard, and, I did wave to them. So I'll just wave by. That's not how we're to treat people. There's a better way. But when we have a chip on our shoulder and we have pride, that's a vicious 1-2 combo. And that's what we're going to find here in the book of Obadiah. It's going to be a history lesson for us. So we're going to open up inside the Bible Project. I don't know if you've liked these videos that we've been showing prior to our one-hit wonder. I would encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube channel of the Bible Project. It's fantastic. Anytime you're going to start studying a book of the Bible, it's great to watch this video. It gives you historical context. It tells you who the audience is that the author is addressing. It gives you a great understanding so that you can take steps in growing and understanding the word of the Lord. So we're going to open up in the book of Obadiah. So if you have a Bible with you, you're going to want to open that up. It's in the Minor Prophets. Okay, so and it's the shortest book, so we'll see how this goes. All right. Okay, so I really think that video, though, it gives us a good sense of humanity and the issue that we deal with when it comes to pride. I love the fact that this is a family story. That's a family story. Because I think if we're honest with each other, probably most of the time where we fall ourselves falling short or being kicked, it comes from people close to us. It comes from family, oftentimes. Maybe it's your immediate family. Maybe it's your work family, the places you go where there are reoccurring relationships. Maybe it's something where you're showing up in online and you've started to be reintroduced to some of these friendships you've had from years ago, and there's friction there all of a sudden. Pride can find its way. Regardless of the relationship, pride wants a say in how things develop. So it's an example of our human condition. The Edomites were the chief problem in this situation. So we're going to look at both sides, and we're going to see how this relates to how we treat people. They had a chip on their shoulder, as you see in the video. They felt disrespected early on with Jacob and Esau, if you know that story. Esau felt a little bit taken advantage of by his brother Jacob. And that chip on the shoulder, that passed from generation to generation to generation, and they were fighting, all the way up to the time of Christ. So as we end today in our sermon, we're going to end today in that Christmas story, that place. We're actually going to see these two families come head to head, two kingdoms come head to head in that moment. So I've got a really great image for you. They showed that in the video with the city that they talked about being on high. This was the home of the Edomites. So this is very well depicted. If you're looking at this picture and you say, that looks familiar to me. Any Indiana Jones fans out there? Okay. So in my personal opinion, the best of the original three films is the last one, The Last Crusade. Fantastic movie. And Sean Connery and Harrison Ford, their characters, as they're making their way into this place, this massive rock city, that's the city of Petra. That is actually the home of the historical people group called the Edomites. And if you look at that narrow passageway over here, I think that's also depicted in the film. I think they're on horseback when they move through there. Why would they have pride from where they were? Like, why would they think they were above any type of attack? This was an impregnable fortress to get to. To get to it, you had to walk through that narrow crevice. That's only 15 feet wide. It's 100 feet tall, and it's a mile long. So invading armies would have to get in file and go through there. Plus, they didn't have advantage because the Edomites had the high point. So they were prideful. They were very prideful. But this is a historical fact. This was their home. Here, though, is the central take-home for us. What does this mean for them? What's going to happen? And what does it mean for our life? Well, it's the same. Pride is the sin of making self our God. That's our big take-home. Let me say it again. Pride is the sin of making self our God. We have struggled with this from the dawn of humanity. Adam and Eve. It was pride. It was them wanting to call the shots, to be in control, to be their own gods. They chose a path apart from God in that perfect relationship. The center letter in pride and sin is what? What's that letter? What's the middle letter? I. Let's say I on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. I. Oh boy. Pride is the sin of making self our God, and the center of pride and sin is the letter I. If you look in Proverbs 18, this is a great verse if you've got your Bible app open. Hold your finger down on that verse and highlight it or leave a note. Before destruction, a man's heart is haughty, but humility comes before honor. Let's say haughty. When's the last time you said haughty? We're going to say it today. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Haughty. You're supposed to say it like that. haughty. I'm so above all these circumstances. I've got a chip on my shoulder, and I'm going to show you how it's going to be done. Haughty, haughty. Destruction. Destruction. Not deliverance, but destruction. Pride goes with destruction. Humility leads to deliverance. We'll talk about that at the end when we talk about the two kingdoms and the choice that lands before us. All right, so we're going to open up in Obadiah now officially. So I've got my Bible app open here. I'm going to read with you. So follow along as we open up in Obadiah, verse 1, and we'll move all the way through verse 9. The vision of Obadiah. Thus says the Lord God concerning Edom. We have heard a report from the Lord, and a messenger has been sent among the nations. Rise up, let us rise against her for battle. Behold, I will make you small among the nations. You shall be utterly despised. The pride of your heart has deceived you, you who live in the clefts of the rock, in your lofty dwelling, who say in your heart, who will bring me down to the ground? Though you soar aloft like the eagle, though your nest is set among the stars, from there I will bring you down, declares the Lord. If thieves came to you, if plunderers came by night, how you have been destroyed. Would they not steal only enough for themselves if grape gatherers came to you? Would they not leave gleanings? How Esau has been pillaged, his treasures sought out. All your allies have driven you to your borders. Those at peace with you have deceived you. They have prevailed against you. Those who eat your bread have set a trap beneath you. You have no understanding. Will I not on that day, declares the Lord, destroy the wise men out of Edom and understanding out of Mount Esau? In our last verse, and your mighty men shall be dismayed, O Teman, so that every man from Mount Esau will be cut off, by slaughter. Ouch. Wow. That is a harsh rebuke for the sin of pride. God is a just God. And there were many opportunities for Edom to choose humility. We're going to talk a little bit about that. It wasn't a one strike, you're out. They had many chances, and this was a reoccurring issue in this family dynamic, these two families. It was a reoccurring issue. Let's go back, though, even before that, into Genesis chapter 12. We need to correctly identify who Israel was and what they were called to be and what the Lord would do in their journey towards him to other factions, other people groups that interacted with them. He says in Genesis 12:3, I will bless those who bless you, speaking to Israel, and him who dishonors you I will curse, and in you all the families of earth shall be blessed. There it is in plain English. So, the Edomites chose to disregard their brother, to not act when he needed them the most, and there would be a harsh rebuttal, a harsh punishment for that sin, This goes back even further, though. If we look in the book of Numbers, everyone's seen the Ten Commandments, right? That's going to be coming out here closer to the holidays and Christmas season. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, the Charlton Heston. Who's seen that? The Charlton Heston Ten Commandments? Yeah. So kids, for those of you who are younger, this is your one chance to stay up late. Actually, it doesn't even work like this anymore. When I was growing up and there was appointment TV and it was live, it was 3 hours on a Sunday night and it went to 11 o'clock at night, okay? School night, Monday morning. This is the only chance we had to stay up late on a Sunday night. Anybody remember this? The Ten Commandments, right? Now it's on demand. You can watch it whenever you want. It's kind of ruined, but anyways, that scene, the Israelites were captive in Egypt, right? They were in bondage. They were slaves for well over 400 years. Now, when they get released and they are to seek out the promised land, they've crossed the Red Sea. We know the waters come down. Pharaoh's army is dismantled, and they are looking for refuge. They're a young people group moving out now into a place they don't know. And they came across their old brother, the Edomites. Look what happens when they ask for help. Please let us pass through your land. We will not pass through field or vineyard or drink water from a well. We will go to along the king's highway. We will not turn aside to the right or to the left until we've passed through your country. But Edom said to him, Israel, you shall not pass through. I get that Gandalf scene, right? You shall not pass, lest I come out with sword against you. So in a time of need, they still had a chip on their shoulder. Pride still ruled this people group called Edom. And so they chose to turn away from their brother's assistance need. So we're going to move into that part of the book of Obadiah where we get helicoptered right into the scene. In the Bible Project video, when they said Babylon walks on the scene and starts to squash the Israelites, right? Jerusalem is taken over. All the worst things that you can imagine are happening. The temple is destroyed. Babylon is there, and they are crushing that foreign invading army. So Israel's going to have a problem. They're going to have foreign invaders, and then they're going to have family. Foreign and family are going to kick them when they're down. Israel's down, and the three-kick rule, that same Texas three-kick rule that we talked about, is about to be administered, and there's a lesson in it for us on what not to do. How should we treat people? Well, here's how we shouldn't treat them. Obadiah's got a message for us. So I want to give credit to Pastor Gary Hamrick. He's a pastor at Cornerstone Chapel in Leesburg, Virginia. And he actually used the backdrop of this Texas three-kick rule in a sermon. I was doing some studying and watching some other pastors, and he just did a phenomenal job of using this three-kick rule. But I want to give him some credit. This was his idea. I think it's very powerful, and I think it's probably going to hit home, especially because we're all family, and we've got families. And these are real issues that we're struggling with, the issue of pride and putting that away and leaning into humility rather. So, all right, we're back in the Bible. So back with me at verse 12. Here we go. Because of the violence done to your brother Jacob, shame shall cover you, and you shall be cut off forever. On the day that you stood aloof, on the day that strangers carried off his wealth and foreigners entered his gates and cast lots for Jerusalem, you were like one of them. But do not gloat over the day of your brother in the day of his misfortune, and do not rejoice over the people of Judah in the day of their ruin. Do not boast in the day of their distress. Okay. First kick. They refused to help. So, that family member, that coworker, that their life's in a mess. I mean, they have hit the bottom of all bottom, the rock of the rock. They're falling down. Life is falling apart for them. And maybe you called it. Hey, I've been saying this for years. This was going to happen over here. It was going to happen. And what goes around comes around. You know, I'm just going to stand by and aloof. It's not my problem. Not my problem. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. Have you been in that space before? Or maybe you've been down just looking up for anyone, and people are aloof. They're just disconcerted. Whether you deserved it or not, they're disconcerted. Not my problem. Let's say aloof. I love that word, aloof. We need to remember this. Aloof on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Aloof. They refuse to help. They refuse to help. Let's continue on with our second kick, okay? Verse 13. Do not enter the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Do not gloat over his disaster in the day of his calamity. Do not loot his wealth in the day of his calamity. Second kick, there's a word, we're going to say it. It's gloat. Gloat on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Gloat. Oh, gloat. This is back with that haughty word, gloat. Oh, will you look at that? Would you look at what's happening over there? Huh. Well, well, well. Gloating. Gloating. Not coming to their aid when I had the resources to help them. And maybe you feel justified. Hey, I remember being over here in a pile. My life, rock bottom. And you weren't there to help me. So guess what? You're going to stay there, and I'm actually going to enjoy this a little bit. I'm going to gloat a little bit. They rejoiced over the Israelites' misfortune. Edom is watching on top of this high place that they've built their life. They've got this fortress. They got a lot of good things happening in their life. Things are going the way I expected to. I've got a chip on my shoulder, and it led to a lot of hard work. And I pulled up my bootstraps, did this on my own, and now guess what? All you people that doubted me, I'm going to laugh when you're at your spot. Because I was there once, and you can stay there. I'm going to stay up here and just refuse to help, and I'm actually going to enjoy it. I'm going to gloat. It's rough. That's what pride does. That's what pride does to our heart. It turns us against people. How about that third kick? We ready for the kidney shot? You guys ready for the kidney shot? It's in verse 14. Do not stand at the crossroads to cut off his fugitives. Do not hand over his survivors in the day of distress. So Babylon is crushing Jerusalem. They're crushing the Israelites. One of the worst days in their history. And the Edomites, when they see a family or two or some people making it out of the city, they stand in their way and they stop them. Nope, 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 nope. You're going to stay here. You're going to pay. You're going to stay here. I'm going to cut you off. In fact, we'll be up on our high perch shining a spotlight so everybody knows where you're at, so we can point you out in your misfortune. They actively sought to keep them down. Maybe you felt like people are actively seeking to keep you down right when things start to turn for you. Start to get a little better, you start pushing yourself up a little bit, and then all of a sudden someone shows up to try and keep you down, to point out why you got there in the first place. No, you don't deserve to leave that place. You need to stay in that guilt, that shame, or maybe just that misfortune, because you had it coming. You had it coming. And I'm not going to let you walk out of that. I think for some of us, sometimes, maybe it's relationships that we have right now where we're walking side by side with someone. Maybe we did show up in their life, but we're commiserating together. We're dealing with the same addiction or struggle or issue. And as soon as our brother or our sister start to turn their feet away from that direction, how does that make us feel sometimes in those moments? Guilty. No. Don't. You're not going to get out of this because I don't have the strength to get out of it. I don't want to see you move on. I'm going to actively seek to keep you in this space with me. Maybe you've been released from that. That's a place of bondage. That's a place of destruction. We want to be in a place of deliverance, a place of humility. Pride does not have to rule the day. 3 kicks. They refused to help. They rejoiced over the Israelites' misfortune, and they actively sought to keep them down. So how are we to treat people? Here's our central take-home today. Don't stand by when someone needs you to stand by them. I don't know who that is for you. Maybe you need somebody just to stand by you. Don't stand by aloof, just doing your thing. Don't stand by idly when someone needs you desperately to stand by them, to give them a hand up. That's our job as Christians, as Christ followers, to live in that place of humility. Pride considers the facts. It always will. If you end up on the side of pride and you want to feel justified, you'll look at all the facts of the situation and you'll do a pros cons. I know I have the resources to help this person. I know I have the right word to say to them. I know how I can point them to the right place to find deliverance or help. But I need to consider all the facts first. did God really say? This is what the devil started from the very beginning. Puts a little bit of doubt in there. Well, actually, let's put a little bit of you in there first before we make that decision, whether to help. Don't stand by idly when someone needs you to stand by them. In Galatians 6:2, we read, bear one another's burdens, and in that we fulfill the law of Christ. Bear one another's burdens. That's messy. That is messy. We're called into the mess of each other's lives to point each other to the source of all healing and restoration, Jesus. We all need it. We're going to need it. Whether we're riding high on our high horse right now, things are going well, or whether we're in the lowest spot, we have to meet together in those places. We need each other in this process. Amen? We really do. Because pride it's been on repeat. It's number one in the devil's all-time hits. He'll play it continually throughout our life until the day we die. We're going to have this issue of putting down pride. Blood runs thick. I told you we were going to finish up with the Christmas story here. So we've got the Edomites and the Israelites. These two families that are warring. Generation upon generation upon generation passes, and eventually we find ourselves in the moment Jesus Christ enters into humanity in a small little town called Bethlehem. Well, did you know that there's a king, and he's the king of the Jews, and he's been appointed by the Roman government to rule over the Jewish people? This is the time Christ comes into the world. These two families who are still contentious. Did you know that the king of the Jews at that time was not actually a Jew? He was an Edomite. Herod. King Herod. You've heard of this man. So we go back to the wise men. As they approach, they see the star in the east, and they ask King Herod, with all of his resources and ability to know this people group, we are looking for the king of the Jews. This was foretold in prophecy. King Herod does his homework. He gets all of his wise men together, and they look into the book. And the prophet Micah predicted this, that in the town of Bethlehem would be a king that would arrive. Did you know that King Herod, the Edomite, had two of his sons executed? His sons executed because he thought they were going to usurp him. They wanted his throne. He was one of the most prideful men in all of history. This burden had been passed on, and he took it. And it's still at this point, it's reaching ahead now because we've got two kingdoms. King Herod, pride, and King Jesus, who would enter in. If we look in that story, this gets very serious very fast. Jesus was being sought out to be murdered. And King Herod had a plan. In Matthew 2:13 we read, now when they had departed, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph and Mary, okay, in a dream. And he said, rise, take the child, which is Jesus, and his mother, Mary, and flee to Egypt, and remain there until I tell you, for Herod is about to search for the child to destroy him. He wanted no part of a challenger. Pride says, what's in it for me? Pride says, what's in it for me? That kingdom is the kingdom of Herod, the Edomite. It's the kingdom that humanity has been trapped in since the dawn of time, when Adam and Eve chose to be their own gods, to set up their own kingdom. What's in it for me? Something we all battle. Jesus, the Israelite, the Jewish Messiah, his kingdom is a kingdom that leads to deliverance. That deliverance is found in humility, and we know that humility says, what's in it for you? You know, when he went to the cross, he was thinking of you. If you were the only person on earth, he still would have went to the cross for you, to make things right, to pay for the sin that you had built into your life, all those moments where you didn't treat people the way we're supposed to treat people, or the sin of omission, of not caring, of just backing away, being aloof. He came to set captives free. We are bound by sin. Sin separates us from a mighty, holy God, but Jesus came to this earth to break free of that. His kingdom is built on humility. We were all enemies of God. We all were. Yet, Jesus, he chose to step into our rebellion against him. He took the beating, the kicks that we rightfully deserved. And on that cross, Jesus put himself in the way of our wickedness, our wicked deeds. What should have come down on us came down on him. He allowed it to happen. He didn't have to, but he did. Have you ever been kicked when you've been down? Are you on the receiving end of that right now? Feeling that weight, the abuse, the neglect, whatever it is? Maybe today in our time this morning you've realized that, yeah, maybe not all 3 kicks, but I can see myself administering on the giving end of those kicks. Let's show up in each other's lives when it's messy, when we have every right not to. Let's get people the right resources, the right words and prayer that they need in their moment when they feel so down, so lost. 2 kingdoms. Which kingdom do you want to be a part of? The kingdom of pride, it says, I will be God, I will make my own way, or the kingdom of humility, deliverance is available for you today.